When I play our game and then talk, I'm trying, Jennifer.
Rip City, can you hear me? Because basketball's rough. This is Alex. I'm glad you guys are here listening to another episode of the Unbiased Trailblazer podcast. We don't do this kind of introduction too often, but I just felt like doing it. I got Fawad here with me tonight. Fawad, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's not been a great week of basketball, but I'm excited nonetheless.
Yeah, you said it. It's not been great. Unfortunately, Sean was not able to make it tonight, so it's just going to be Fawad and I. So we're going OG podcast once again. So really, we're just going to pretend like this is our first episode back, and we're so excited to be doing this, and we love the Blazers and we love the basketball they're putting out there, and we're going to pretend like there's nothing wrong and everything is going perfect in Rip City land, and it's just going to be positive vibes this entire podcast. We will not talk negatively about anything, and we will be the most biased possibly. Wait a minute, that didn't come out right. We'll be the most biased podcast out there that could possibly be, because apparently that's what everybody wants to hear. Looking at all these comments that I see in these different Facebook groups I'm in, some Reddit is definitely more. The world is ending than Facebook is, but also on Twitter or X, I see a lot of people defending a lot of stuff that's going on. And so if you've come to listen to this podcast and expect some defense and praise for our team, you might not want to listen to this episode, because not that most of our episodes have been positive, but it's a rough one. It's a rough one out there. So I'm going to throw it to Fawad right off the bat. We haven't missed. Since our last podcast, we've had 4 games, 2 of them against Houston, 1 against OKC, and I am drawing a blank. We just literally looked at the schedule. What's the 4th one? Memphis, thank you. Oh, God. Yeah, how could I forget that one? So, Fawad, let me ask you your thoughts on those 4 games. Anything jump out at you? Take it away.
Okay, I guess I'll go quickly game by game. OKC, I actually liked what I saw for the most part. Obviously, they're the number 1 seed. I think they're the number 1 seed. They just got back Hardenstein. Like, that was a game where odds were not in our favor. We lost them by like 23 or something like that the first time. So I was not expecting a great performance, and honestly, we were in it the entire time. I think we even had a lead like very late in the game. So we ended up losing by 10, but I was overall pretty happy with the game. Yeah, like no complaint. Obviously, there's things we can improve on, but generally, I thought it was a good performance. Then the next 2 against Houston, that first game, that was rough, man. That was one of the I was lucky enough to miss most of the game, the first half, which is what I saw. And I think that was the better half, if anything. But that was a depressing half of basketball. One of the least fun games, in my opinion, of the season. Yeah, just nothing was going right. Yeah, it was just bad. Thankfully, we bounced back the next game. We actually won. Denny played really well that game. Denny's been good the last couple of games, honestly. So I was really happy to see that. It felt like the whole team played really well. And then yesterday against Memphis, okay, I'm honestly, it might be a little bit of a hot take, but I thought we didn't do terrible. Like, on paper, we should have lost by 45 again. Nothing was in our favor going into the game. We were missing Klingon. Obviously, we're missing Aiden. Chris Murray was hurt. Ja had they announced he's coming back. Memphis is already a good team with or without Ja. Things were like we were set up for failure. So it wasn't surprising that we lost by 25. I think that's probably what I would have expected before the game. And the only reason I'm not super down on it is because the first half was pretty competitive. Honestly, I think even the first 2.5 quarters were competitive. It kept going from like 6 to 11 back and forth. It wasn't the best game, but I don't think it definitely wasn't I'd say it wasn't our bottom 3 loss of the season at all. So It was not a good showing overall, but ultimately I don't like we didn't hit new lows like we did with some of our other losses. So yeah, generally not a great week of basketball, but definitely not as bad as the week where we lost by 25 and then 45 to Minnesota and Memphis.
Yeah, it wasn't a horrible week. We went 1-3. The Houston game,
Very good
honestly,
teams.
that's very true. That's something we need to talk about, actually. A lot of people, I don't think, are realizing, like, we've had a rough schedule where we've played a lot of the top teams, a lot of the better defensive teams. And some games we hold our own. Other games, the Memphis game, you get blown out by 40, and a lot of games were it wasn't close a lot of times. But before we hop into anything else, I just got to say this: as much as it sucked watching Memphis beat us, I enjoy watching Ja play. That dude is just
Yo,
he had a nasty dunk against us. He had an amazing behind the back pass. Like, that guy is just so fun to watch. Memphis is lucky they have a good one there. And honestly, Memphis has got a pretty good team. I mean, they Jaren Jackson Jr. They're very physical. They get away with a lot, but they're fun to watch.
I was in awe of some of the things that Ja is doing. Like, he is not fair.
Yeah, that
Some of
dude
his
is.
passes were insane. His dunk was ridiculous. Like, he's just I don't even know how to describe it. He's just fun to watch. Him and LaMelo, like, they seem like they're having fun on the court at all times. It's just playing pickup ball against NBA players is what it feels like.
Playing pickup ball against the Blazers. Yep, that's what's happening. Yeah, really the biggest problem I had this last week was the Rockets' first game, and unfortunately, that was an NBA Cup game.
Yeah, that was really brutal.
That was, to throw salt in the wound. That was even more rough. We already are getting spanked by them, and then on top of it, it's an NBA Cup game where our first game we played very well, and I think we almost won by like 20, if I remember right, against Minnesota. So, like, to lose by, what did we lose by? Almost 30.
20, yeah, 30.
Almost 30.
8, I
So it's
think.
like it just takes away everything you have. But that first Rockets game was rough. I mean, it there I don't even know if I can think of anything that, like, when I was watching it, I was like, well, at least I saw this, or there wasn't like any positives that I can recall from that game. The second Rockets game was a much different story. We actually got some fireworks with Simons showing some emotion and defending some teammates and getting Fred VanVleet fired up and him pointing at a ref and getting ejected. I mean, it was a hectic game towards the end, but that one was much more competitive, and that's all I've been saying. That's all I've been saying all year. I don't care if we win I do care if we win, but I don't care if we lose as long as it's just competitive. If we end up losing by 10 at the end of the game, I'm fine as long as it was competitive. And it's not like us at the last 2 minutes coming back down 30 and it's like all the bench players are in and we made a little run. Like, if it's competitive for most of the game, like the OKC game was, like for the most part the Memphis game was, where, like, I agree, like 2.5 quarters, it was pretty competitive and we were kind of jostling to try to catch back up, but it wasn't like it was just out of hand the entire time. But that's all I care about. I mean, really, this last game against Memphis, once again, Simons has a stinker and pretty much just looks like he doesn't once again care that he's playing basketball for us. It's funny how you can go from sticking up to your teammate and showing all this emotion and, like, getting praised for it. Brooke Olzendam praises him in the post game about it. Like, we've never seen you do that before. And then the very next game, it looks like he don't care. Like, it just, like, he has no interest in doing anything out there other than just shoot the ball or dribble the ball up the court. And in all honesty, he didn't shoot the ball well. I think, Fouad, you posted like he had 5 fouls, if I remember right.
Yeah, he had 5 points, 5 fouls. Like,
It's just
crazy. I think he shot 2 for 14.
It's just horrible. It
So
is. It's awful. Like, just this is where I'm talking about. Like, I know they're NBA players, and I know you're paying this dude $20 million a year, or whatever it is right now. But like, just what's the point? Why are we putting him out there? Like, everybody knows he only adds one thing to our team, and that's offensive shooting, scoring the scoring the basketball. He's not doing that. He can't do it. Like, I don't know what he did this offseason, but whatever he did, it is not translating to him being even close to how he used to be, let alone be better than how he used to be, because it's just the most inconsistent basketball I've seen from him. And it's like he's unplayable, yet we're playing him anyways. And it's so frustrating. If you guys watch basketball, if you've been watching the Blazers, those 3 games that he was out, and then the last 4 games that he's been back, you cannot tell me you don't see a difference in how the team plays when he's out there. It's like night and day, the difference in what we are seeing out there. When he is out there, it's a lot of ISO basketball, a lot of standing around watching. When he is not out there, and it's not just when he goes and sits on the bench, when he is out for the game and he's not out there, the whole entire team is energized. The whole entire team is moving. There's ball movement. There's player movement. There's cutting. It's just everything. What are we doing, Fawad? What are we doing? Why are we?
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? We mentioned that the OKC game was kind of close. I didn't play in that game, and that was probably the best team we've played in the last like 7-8 games in that stretch. So we had worse losses to worse teams with Ant back than without him. So it's not just that he happened to miss games against easier teams. Like he missed the game against OKC. He was one of the best teams, and we still looked like a real basketball team. Whereas now, don't really. So yeah, the evidence is there. I don't know what else to say. We've talked about him at length already, but
Yeah.
I'm just praying one of these days he gets a DNP-CD. Like it did not play coach's decision or whatever it stands for. But yeah, I don't want to see him suit up for the Blazers again.
And you know what? This is one of the other things, and this is why when we made this podcast, like this was one of my goals with it. Is like, I don't want to sugarcoat things. I don't want to like favor our players. Like, it's bad. It's not even like I want some sports writer, someone that's in those post-game press conferences to be like, Chauncey, what the hell? What are you guys doing? Why is Ant still rolling out here every game playing 25 plus minutes a game? Like, what I understand that he's supposed to be our best player. I get it. I understand you're paying him all this money to do it. I feel like we're beating a dead horse. I feel like we talk about this every podcast. You are limiting everything else because you are forced to play. You're not forced. No one's forced to play him, but we are playing him. We're trying to appease him. I don't know if it's because we're trying to get his trade value back up because it's gone down so bad because of how bad he's played. But
it's non-existent at this point.
It is like, we talked about CJ, like we needed to trade CJ back when we had CJ, right? CJ was still at least going out on the offensive end of the floor and still producing. Granted, that's all he was doing, but Ant's not even doing that. He's not doing anything. He's shooting 15 times a game, making 5 of them, shooting 20 times a game to get 20 points. Like it's so frustrating.
Honestly, is he even doing that? I want to look it up quickly, but I feel like he scored 20 like once this season.
The other night when I think it was the Rockets game where he had a decent game, if I remember correctly. At one point when I was looking at his stats, he was like 4 of 17 for 17 points or something like that. And then he hit a couple more shots at the end and ended 10 of 20 for 25 points. Like it was something like that. Like,
okay,
you should not be averaging a point a shot. Like, that's not good when you're shooting 20 times. Like, that's not something, especially averaging a point a shot and then be absolutely non-existent on the defensive end. And my heart rate raises every time we talk about him. And it's not because this last thing I'm going to say about him. It's not that I don't think he's a good basketball player, because we know he's a good basketball player. Like, he's good offensively. He needs to be on a team that he is the sixth man on that team. He needs to be the Jamal Crawford, the Lou Williams of a team, where all you need from him is to come in for 15, 20 minutes, shoot the ball, score the ball, go sit on the bench. We don't need you to play make. We don't need you to dribble the ball up constantly. Just be out there for 15, 20 minutes. Try to be in the sixth man of the year conversation and just play offensive basketball, and then sit your ass on the bench and, let players who are much more all around better at basketball play, because right now I don't even know what the hell we're watching with him. It's not the same Simons we've been watching for the last couple of years. I can tell you that. It's completely different. I don't know if there's something personal going on in his life where he's kind of, how Dame had some issues towards the end with and you could tell something was going on. I don't know if that's what's happening. There's no way you just have this drop in production just like out of nowhere. Like, he's young, he's athletic. It's not an age thing. It's not like he's definitely getting the opportunity to be good. So my rant is over with. My rant on Ant. Rant on Ant. I mean, that's damn. We're gonna have to make some shirts or something on that.
Honestly, we can probably like rename our podcast to that, because it feels like we're doing it every single episode.
That's all it ever is anymore. Like, we're forced to watch it. Like, if you want to watch Blazers basketball, you're forced to watch Simon stand out there for 30 minutes, shoot the ball 25 times, and not play any defense, not create for anybody but himself. And I don't know about you, but that's not the kind of basketball I want to watch.
100%. And one last thing, just before we're done with him for hopefully the rest of the episode. It doesn't feel like it's just a slump, because slumps last like 5 games, 10 games. We're almost 20 games into the season, and he's had like 3 good games all year. So it's just really frustrating. I'm way past hoping that he's going to improve, hoping he'll break out of this slump. I think this is just, it could be something personal. It could just be a bad year for him because of whatever's going on, in his personal life. But whatever the reason is, I'm not optimistic about him playing any better anytime soon.
Yeah, let me just give you some numbers real quick, just so we know where he's at this year. 30 minutes a game, shooting 37% from the field, shooting 29.6 from the 3-point line, and shooting 92% from the free throw line. He's averaging just under 4 assists a game and averaging 2.5 turnovers a game at 15.5 points. So you go ahead and tell me how that justifies continuing to put him out there, continuing to just hope to God one day he decides he's going to finally at least be good on the offensive end. Like, I truly feel like this is probably the most we've ever been critical of on a player in this podcast. But it's so bad that you have to be. You cannot sugarcoat it anymore. Like, there's no way to just keep saying, oh, he's young. No, he's not young. He's been in the league long enough. He may be young in the age department. He may be only 24 or 25, however old he is, but he's been in the league long enough to know and long enough to be better at what is than what we're seeing right now. Like, it's rant on Ant over. No more.
You know what? Indirectly related to what you just said, it's not about Ant specifically, but it really grinds my gears when people talk about age for a player when he's been in like his like 6th, 7th season.
Mm-hmm.
People say, like, not Ant specifically, but anyone who's like 24 and they're like in their 5th season, they're like, oh, he has so much room to grow. He's only 24. And they're comparing him to like a rookie who's 24, and they think they have the same ceiling. Once you're in the NBA, in my opinion, age doesn't really matter. The only thing age matters for is when you're over the hump and you're declining. In my opinion, once you're in the NBA, it's all about your experience. A 3rd-year player is equivalent to a 3rd-year player. It doesn't matter that one's 24 and one's 21. Maybe there's like a minor difference from age, but I think experience is like 90% of your like, it tells you what your potential is way more than age. It really grinds my gears when people say, oh, this guy's only 24 when he has shown no potential in his first 5 years, and they're like, he's not going to suddenly become a different player overnight.
And you know what? That's a good point you made. Not clearly they're totally different players, right? But we're talking about Ja Morant. Ja Morant's the same exact age as Simons. You hear anybody saying that about Ja Morant? Oh man, he's gonna get so much better now. He's so much young. He's still so young. He's 25. He's just having a slump right now. No one's saying that about him. No one's saying like, oh man, he's got room to improve. He's gonna get better. I know he's struggling now. Why is nobody saying that about him? There's so many players that are either the same age or younger that are excelling. I mean, I'm pretty sure Anthony Edwards is younger than Simons. We sure as hell saying that about him. I mean, the dude's literally probably going to be the face of the NBA for the next 10 years. So what's the excuse? Like what the age is not an issue. And like you said, he's been in the league for 6 years. I think it's 6 years. Sure, he's 25.
It looks like 7 actually.
Is it 7? Is this the 7? Oh, so this is probably the 7th.
This is the 7th, yeah.
Yeah. So he's been in the league 7 years. If you're trying to tell me that it takes more than 7 years for a player to really develop, and especially the last 2.5 years where he's pretty much had the keys to just do whatever the hell he wants, what are we doing? Why are we even drafting players anymore then? Like what's the point in drafting a player if it's going to take 7 years for that player to pan out finally? Like, do we just trade everybody that's old and just start over with young guys suck for 7 years just so we can have a couple years of good players and then do it all over again? Like, people that are saying he's young still, that excuse does not work. He's got to go. Let him go to a team. Let him go to a playoff team that needs some offense off the bench, and let him do that, and let him excel at being an offensive player that doesn't have to worry about anything but that. Okay.
All right, that was my bad. We should have ended that like 5 minutes ago, but let's move on. Let's move on from Ant. I don't want to talk about him again on this podcast until he's traded. Like I'm just done.
So let's jump into something here.
Yeah,
and first off, I want to shout out Vibin on Discord. He said something, and before I misquote it, I'm going to pull it up real quick because it was hilarious last night. We're talking obviously about how bad it was, and here it is. He says Chauncey Billups and Joe Cronin have built a 60-win team in 2000 and a 20-win team in 2025. And dude, if that's not the truth, like we're and it's so funny because we were talking about like how 5 years ago it was like we need to get defensive players and our defensive rating was so bad, and now it's like offensive rating is so bad we can't score the basket, we can't shoot, like nobody can score, and it's like polar opposites, which is worse. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. Here's the problem. Watching like back when we had Dame and defense was killing us and we couldn't stop anybody. Yeah, it was enjoyable watching Dame put up 40, 50 points a game. Like, yeah, that was fun to watch. I get more enjoyment out of this year when our players are competing really hard and they're playing good defense and they're playing team basketball and they're moving the ball around. I get more enjoyment out of watching that than I did watching Dame score 40 points. And I love Dame and I loved everything he did. But defense brings a different kind of excitement to basketball. And when you have these players buying in, and we have some good defensive players, I love watching hustle plays. That's why I loved Wesley Matthews. That's why I love Kamara. Like, hustle plays are exciting and they amp your entire team up. So it's a funny situation. We, back in 2000, this would be a championship contender team with how good our defense could be. We don't have to score 120 points to win a game. We can just play defense and score 80, 90 points and be winning games. So Vibe, and shout out to you. That was hilarious. But it's also true. It's also true. So my first question to you, Fouad, is would you rather have a very good offensive team with bad defense or a good defensive team with bad offense?
That question is very difficult because I obviously want to say defense because, like you said, defense hustle is way more exciting, in my opinion. Obviously, like offenses can be really exciting as well, especially when Dame's going crazy. But defense is like that's what makes me love players. Ed Davis is still probably my second favorite player, Blazer after Dame. But it has to come with the caveat that you're actually winning games. Mm-hmm. And right now, we're not winning games. Mm-hmm. So that's why I would I want to say offense because, okay, if to put into Blazer terms, I would rather have our team over the 2021, 2022 Dame years where we weren't making the playoffs because like our offense was just Dame and then our defense was terrible. They're
Mm-hmm.
comparing it to like 2018, 19 where our offense is one of the best in the league and then our defense is like bottom 20 instead of like 28, 29, 30. And then I think I take that because at least we're winning more games that way. But it's I think at the end of the day, winning solves everything. So even if one side of the even if one side of the court is bad, as long as we're winning, seem better. But if that is equal, then yeah, defenses are more fun for sure.
Well, yeah, and obviously this is an offense-driven league now, right? Like that's
Yeah.
clearly, games going 120 to 115. Like I literally was just watching a NBA Classic clip on my phone. Like it was like on my lunch break. I was watching like an NBA Classics game, and it was a Miami Heat and Kobe game. And the final score was like 98 to 89 or something like that. Like it was such a low scoring game, but back then that was a high scoring game. Like if you broke 100, that was a big deal. And now it's like we're breaking 100 in the third quarter, and it's like it's fun to watch and it's fun to see these guys play. And it's kind of the issue. It's kind of the issue football's kind of falling into as well, where all these rules are catered to the offense. They want these high scoring games and they want these offensive players to go and have, great games and quarterbacks to have great games. It's the same thing we've been seeing in the NBA too. You're having all these rule changes. You're having, you look at like what Luka said about how much easier it is in the NBA to score than it is in the Euro leagues. And he's not wrong. Like the simple fact that you have the defensive three in the key penalty now, like that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And I'm not saying that's like a wrong rule. Like I'm not saying that, but they definitely cater to offense and they want these high scoring games and they want these 50, 60. Like think about last year having Karl Anthony Towns score 60 or 70 that one night and Joel Embiid doing the exact same on the same exact night. I cannot recall ever back when I was younger watching, when Tracy McGrady was playing and Kobe was playing. I don't ever recall hearing players scoring 70 on the same exact night together. Like you would hear Kobe score 50 points and be like, "Yeah, that was a great game." And now 50 is just like a good game for a really good player. Like we expect, like that was the thing. We expected Dame to score 50 points.
Inflation has hit the NBA too.
Yeah, right. So
Crazy.
yeah, it's I get it, and it is hard when your team is definitely more geared on the defensive side in an offensive minded league. It definitely makes it harder.
It's interesting though because it's obviously more offensively driven now, the NBA, but I feel like the offense was more fun to watch maybe in the late 2000s or early 2010s. Like I feel like offenses were more creative. Now it's just everyone just spamming threes, which I feel like you get more points that way, but it's not as fun to watch. So it's interesting that the league trying to cater to offense has made it a little bit less interesting offensively.
Well, and I think that's another reason why a lot of people like Ja Morant, because he's kind of
fun.
like an old school player where he can shoot the three when he needs to. He's not the most efficient at shooting the three, but he is, well, I guess, he's only played a couple games, so never mind. I'm looking at his stats right now, and I was like, he's shooting 66%, but he's only played 2 games. But like he attacks the rim. Same with Russell Westbrook back, the last couple, last 10 years, attacks the rim, like mid-range game, playmaking, passing, like that's fun basketball. I'm not saying seeing some dude shoot a three is not fun. I mean, that's what the game's evolved into. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. It's evolved into just spamming threes. Who can shoot the most threes? I think Boston last year shot like an insane amount of threes a game, and I mean they won an NBA championship. Not only, I mean, they played great defense too, but I mean, yeah, I mean, shooting is winning you games and winning you championships. And you look at Curry and the Warriors, and you look at Miami Heat with Ray Allen and Chris Bosh, and I know I just said Chris Bosh shooting threes, but he wasn't terrible at shooting.
He was. He was like one of the first big men that would shoot.
Yep.
One
So
of my
I mean,
favorite players of all time.
The 3-point land is definitely where you're winning games, and need I say any more than we cannot shoot the ball? Like
Yes.
we got to be one of the worst, if not the worst, 3-point shooting teams in the NBA. Do you know
We
if
are
we are?
actually, or not the worst, but I believe we're 29th. I have it open. Give me 1 minute. We are. Sorry. You know what? You keep talking. I'll pull it up in just a sec.
Yeah, I mean it's when
Sorry,
our
guys.
best player who should be shooting the most threes and scoring the most is shooting 26% from 3. That tells you all you need to know. Like that was Simons's, that was Dame's, that was Simon's, big thing was they can shoot threes, they can score off the dribble, step back threes, they can do all of that. And when your best player is shooting 26%, Jeremy Grant's not shooting good, Shaden Sharp's not necessarily shooting good. Denny is starting to get a little bit better. We haven't talked about him much, but he is starting to hit some threes.
All right, I got the numbers. So we're 28th in 3-point percentage at 32.2 as a team, and we are 27th in makes as a team with 11.3 per game.
Yeah, it's just
And basically we're 28th because we're tied with the Kings for at 11.3. So pretty much 28th in both.
yeah,
Bad.
you're not going to win a lot of games when you're not hitting threes, unless you are playing lights out defense and you are being very efficient in the key, which we are also not being very efficient in the key. I do believe, though, for those of you who don't know this, I think we are one of the highest teams, if not the highest team for free throws a game. Is that correct? Does that say that?
We are 11th, which is pretty high.
Oh, 11. Okay, I thought it was higher than that. But still, 11th is
But
high. Yeah.
yeah, our percentage is not great though.
Yeah, we're getting to the free throw line. We're just not making them. So, hence why we lose a lot of these games. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's rough. So, what needs to change offensively? Fawad put out a post on Reddit, post on Instagram, and I put a post out on Facebook in a couple of groups that I'm in, and a lot of responses were, of course, the same exact responses. We can't shoot the 3, so we need to get more shooters. And simply put, yeah, that's correct. We need to shoot better. We need to get more capable 3-point shooters. Like, yes, that's an obvious answer, but there's so much more that goes into it than just we need to get better 3-point shooters. For one, and I will not say his name. He's turned into Lord Voldemort, so he who must not be named will not be named. Needs to be traded off of this team. I don't know. We talk about Chauncey Billups. We're bipolar on him. Sometimes we're like, yeah, he's doing great. Sometimes we're like, yeah, he's not doing so great. I don't know. Those 3-4 games that Ant wasn't in there. Oh, I just said his name. The 3 or 4 games that he wasn't in there, our offense definitely looked different. I honestly still can't tell you what we're running offensively. It's still a ton of the stupid triple dribble handoffs, a ton of pick and rolls, and we're hoping to God the first one works, because if the first one doesn't work, then the second one's not going to work, and then we're just ISO basketball. So I don't know. There's so many things that need to change offensively, but it definitely starts with moving one player that I will not say, and just relieving ourselves from that pressure, relieving him himself from that pressure of, because I know, like, there's no way he does not know that people are very frustrated. Like, there's no way he doesn't know that. So that's added pressure onto him to, try to get back to how it used to be, and which may be making things even worse. So what do you feel, Fawad? What needs to change offensively?
There's so many things that need to change. Let me start off with some of the problems that I see, which are backed up with some stats that I found. Obviously, we talked about the 3-point percentage, 28th in the league. Our net rating is 30th in the league. We're literally the worst offense in the entire league. Our defensive rebounding percentage, which isn't directly related to offense, but it's one of the reasons why we're not winning as many games as we should. Where I think last in the league in that, last in defensive rebound percentage, last in assists. That's showing we don't have a lot of ball movement. Our offense is not as free flowing as it should be. It's just a lot of people taking bad shots. They're trying to create shots when we don't really have any shot creators on the team. We have the second highest turnover percentage as well. So half the time we're not even getting shots up. We're just turning it over. So that's actually one of my one of my most frustrating things. Unforced turnovers, they piss me off. I can't watch teams, especially when it's your own team, turn over the ball like off your own mistake. It's just, I get it. I get where a young team, where I think the youngest or second youngest team in the league, I get it. We're going to make mistakes. It's just very frustrating to watch. But yeah, so we have all of these problems. What do we do about it? I don't know where to start. We like getting a shooter would obviously help a little bit, but I don't think that would magically solve all our problems. I think, you talked about these dribble handoffs. They piss me off too because, you can use dribble handoffs and create like a good play out of it. It's not a bad play, or it's not even a play, but it's not a bad action in and of itself. It's just we just do it for the sake of doing it. We're not getting anything out of it.
Exactly.
We're basically just passing the ball, but doing a dribble handoff to do it. It's not like we don't have the person going and setting a screen for someone else. We don't have the guy handing it off and cutting. We don't have any we don't have any play that comes out of the dribble handoff. It should be an action that sets up the rest of your play. I feel like we just do it and then the next person just stands there with the ball for the next 5 seconds after that. So we're not getting anything out of it, which is really frustrating. Yeah, and the assists. I talked about it. We're last in assists. Some of it comes, I'm sure I wanted to look this up, but I didn't have time. Potential assists. I want to see if we're also last in creating like shots, but I feel like even even if we are creating shots, we don't have shooters to knock them down. So that's not thing. Even if we are getting good looks, and honestly, some games we do get decent looks and we don't convert them, which is also frustrating. But I guess it's a little bit better. Uh, but yeah, it's just so many issues. We don't have a system on offense. It's just five players playing basketball on their own, which is really frustrating to watch and leads to some ugly offense. Sometimes they knock down shots and we win games, but that's because of just the players knocking down shots, not because of our offense being better than the other teams. So yeah, lots of issues. I don't know where to start to like solve them. It's just annoying. I want to start watching the games a little bit more closely and try to see like what I can pick up about things specifically that we're doing wrong. I feel like I have a okay basketball knowledge, but I'm not like amazing with X's and O's. So I want to in the next few games, I want to try to focus on that a little bit more. Maybe try to analyze games more consciously. Maybe next week I'll have some more ideas, but right now, yeah, I'm at a loss of words and ideas.
Let me read some of the comments that we got in Reddit.
Sure, let's do
I
that.
feel like if we're gonna post in there and we get comments and good comments, I want to put those out there. I want to give props to the people that are putting stuff out there. The first one that I'm gonna put out there, I'm gonna assume this is from Keith from the Trailcasters. What's up, Keith? We have a coach that's telling them to play how he wants them to play instead of coaching them to play to their strengths, and I think that's a perfect. Like, Billups has this idea in his mind. He talks about it in his post game press conferences and in interviews and things. Like, he has this idea of how he wants them to play, and clearly, after 4.5 years, clearly that's not working. That's not translating to anything. And you're going out every night with the same exact game plan, that stupid dribble handoff like you talked about that does absolutely nothing but waste 12 seconds on the clock doing it. I mean, horrible. So Keith, I like that comment. I thought that was a good one. I cannot pronounce this person's name, but he is from overseas. So on Reddit, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce this, but he said, "For real, I live overseas and can't watch the games, but watching the highlights would make you think there's a rule that only one or two players are allowed to move at a time." So he's referring to a comment that was talking about ball movement and player movement and how stagnant we are, and we just kind of stand around and watch. And like that right there is telling you someone who's not even watching the games and is only getting to see highlights is seeing an issue just from highlights. Like highlights that are supposed to be your best part of your game, and they're literally seeing issues from that one. So shout out, unfortunately, to the name that I'm not going to be able to pronounce.
It seems like maybe Burrow Cerebro or maybe Baroche Bro. Oh, maybe it is Barochere? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
If you're
I can
listening, I hope
barely
you understand.
I can barely read Dr. Seuss. Okay, so another one which add easy 7357 on Reddit. Another thing, our ball movement definitely needs improvement. We rank low on true assist, which you were just kind of talking about. It and that also plays into what we were just talking about: ball movement, player movement. There's just it's non-existent. There's nothing. When Scoot's in there, it is a little bit better. Scoot does create a little bit more, but it's just not there. And then Colby Allen 16 on Reddit said something that is very true, and unfortunately is very sad that it's true. He said, "Can't ask for much more when Kamara and Murray are your third or fourth options to create one-on-one shots." And as much as I love Kamara, I mean, we all can agree that he is absolutely amazing defensively. He is absolutely amazing in the hustle category. Offensively, he's not the greatest, and that's okay. You don't have to be great at everything. You don't have to be really good at everything. So it's not a knock on him that when the plays break down, it relies on him to create for himself because that's not his game. I so hope he would be such an amazing player if he could like truly develop an offensive side to the ball. But it's a great point. Like what are we expecting when that's what we're working with? 5 seconds left. Give Kamara the ball and let's hope to God he can do something.
Mm-hmm.
Give it to Keegan Murray in the corner and hope he can do something. Like that's a perfect explanation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we have people trying to create their own shots that can't create their own shots. So we need to have some sort of system where we move the ball more, we get guys better shots, where we get guys open looks, whether it's at the 3-point line or a layup, or even like at this point, take a mid range if you're open and you can hit it. Just something where guys don't have to work to create their own shots because that's not their strength.
And one last thing I want to add to this is that I also saw this in a lot of comments. This was more on Facebook, and I saw it a couple times in Reddit. But people saying, "Well, we're just tanking. We just need to keep tanking. This is what we want. We want to lose games." So I know you and I kind of differ on this a little bit. Granted, I would love for us to win. I would love for us to win games, right?
Before you even start, I'm gonna
Sure.
say I'm not gonna comment on this at all because if I do, it's gonna be an hour-long rant. So I think I'll save my thoughts on tanking for maybe next episode. But you can go ahead, and I just
Yeah,
will
I'll
not
make it
say
short and
anything.
sweet. I am definitely I don't like the word tanking. I don't like the idea that we're just losing on purpose or we're putting out lineups that are bad on purpose to lose games. All I care about, and I've said it 100 times, just be competitive. If we lose games and we're competitive, that's all I care about. We're not going to build a winning culture with what we have right now. Like what's going on is not going to be a winning culture, but what you can build is a competitive culture where you can be competitive in all of these games and just not get over the hump. Get over the hump every once in a while and win a couple games and then, lose a majority of these games, but being competitive builds that foundation of what it takes to be competitive in the league and then helps you to see, okay, what here and there can I do to get us over this hump? What here and there in this one game could I have done to give us one extra possession, 2 extra points? Like what little things can I do? Instead, it's just let Ant go out there, shoot 20 times. Let's let Sharp go out there. And this is another problem is I don't ever see plays drawn up for Sharp. Like it's just like I don't know, dude. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating what Billups does offensively. But for all these people saying, we're keep tanking, this is what we want. I'm fine if we lose majority of our games and we get a top 4 pick. You're not guaranteed to get a number 1 pick if you have the worst record. So keep tanking and losing games isn't guaranteeing you anything. And we had a fairly good chance last year to get a top pick. Did we get a top pick? Nope. We had a fairly good chance to get the number 1 pick with Wembanyama in there. We didn't get that. We got the 3rd pick. I mean, you're not guaranteed anything just for having a bad record. And then on top of that, you're not guaranteed the player you draft is going to be anything special. Like people just think like you get the number 1 pick, you're just guaranteed a good player. You're going to have a good player. Well, there was a player named Anthony Bennett that was guaranteed to be a good player, and the Cleveland Cavaliers sure wish they didn't draft him. A lot of people in Portland think Scoot's not going to be a good player, and we took him 3rd, and he was supposed to be a generational talent, and any other draft would have been a number 1 pick. So, granted, I'm not.
To be fair, I don't think anyone expected Anthony Bennett to be a surefire
That's
thing.
true.
That's
true.
That was a wild pick, even at
that was a pretty crazy pick. You're right. That was a bad. Pretend I didn't say that, everybody. Anthony Bennett was a horrible 1st round pick. I don't know why anyone took him with the 1st pick.
But I said I wouldn't comment on this, but like Zion, he was supposed to be the best prospect since LeBron, and what is he doing now? He's out of shape. He's fell off a cliff. Honestly, he's not even healthy half the time. So nothing's guaranteed.
Well, wasn't Ayton the number 1 pick?
Yeah.
Would everyone be like, oh man, DeAndre Ayton is just dominating out there? He was number 1 pick. Nope. Like you're not guaranteed anything. I mean, you've got players like, oh my God, why am I drawing a blank of that guy that was drafted in the 2nd round? That was really good.
Which year, Jokic?
No, well, yeah, shit. What am I thinking? Jokic, right there, perfect. You got to do, drafted in the 2nd round while a Taco Bell commercial's on. Like, not even good enough, not even a good enough pick to be on TV when the pick is made. And one of the best players in the NBA. Like, you're not guaranteed anything with the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd pick. Cooper Flagg could end up being, he could be the Greg Oden. You draft him because he's supposed to be so great. Mm-hmm. He plays really good for us and then has health issues and cannot play basketball. Like, I don't think taking Greg Oden was the wrong choice. Hindsight, sure, taking Durant was the right choice. But Greg Oden when he played, he was dominant for us and he played great for us. And it's just unfortunate he couldn't play. But so the people saying keep tanking, you got to at least be competitive. You can't be the Washington Wizards, the Charlotte Hornets. Like, look at them. They've been tanking for how long? And because they're not being competitive a lot, you're not building anything but just number 1, number 3, number 5 draft picks that aren't amounting to anything. And coaching plays a part of that. You got to have a good coaching staff. You got to have a coach you can trust. And, after this year, that's something we can, start talking about more as the year goes on. What are we doing at the coaching position? Because Billups is not the answer. And I think we all feel pretty comfortable he's not going to be there after this year. I sure hope not. So I appreciate all the comments on Discord and all the comments on I almost said TikTok, Twitter and Reddit and Facebook. It really does help to talk about it and see what other people are thinking. And obviously these are just our opinions. Just because we're saying it on a microphone doesn't make us any more right than you saying anything you said. But I do, both Fawad and I, and even Sean, we appreciate having these conversations with everybody, and it does help. So, do you have anything else you want to talk about, Fawad?
I just wanted to quickly go over our schedule, let's call it. Some thoughts on the teams we've played so far and the teams we have coming up. We've had one of the hardest schedules so far. We played only 1 game against the Eastern Conference. All of our other games, 16 of them were against the against the West, where pretty much every single team except for New Orleans and Utah are like really good. And granted, we did play New Orleans twice, so those are 2 relatively easy games. But every other team in the West, that's a tough game that you're playing, and it's the only teams that we have been playing against. And the only team in the East we played was Atlanta, who's not terrible either. We've had a very tough schedule so far, and it's not going to get much easier anytime soon. Our next few games are like a little bit easier. I'll pull it. We have the Pacers up next, who's the only other East game that we have before before January, basically. So Pacers are probably going to be a little bit easier, and even then they made the playoffs last year. They're not a terrible team, um, but this next 5-6 games is a little bit easier, but still it's almost all against the West, so it's hard no matter what. And now we're like injured too, so it's even tougher without Klingon, without Jeremy Grant. Who knows when Scoot's coming back? So we're 7-11, which is not a terrible record. It would probably be, I
No,
think, the
no.
seventh seed in the East. That's respectable. Like, we're not a terrible team, even though we have some really bad nights. Of our 11 losses, 7 of them were by over 20 points, which is crazy, and another 3 were by 10. So that's that means only one of our loss was in single digits, which is crazy to think about. But all this is to say, December 30th. Until December 30th, that's, I think, 29 or sorry, I don't have the number on me. I think it's 30 or 31 games until December 30th. Of those 31 games, 2 of them are against the Eastern Conference. That's crazy. Currently today, every single team in the Western Conference, except for I think the Spurs, I think only the Spurs is the only other one. Everyone else has played 3 or 4 games against the East already. We're not going to play our third game against the East until December 30th. So that's a brutal
Crazy.
schedule until then. Once December 30th hits, once January 2025 hits, more than half of our games are against the East. So if the East stays as bad as they are and we stay at the level that we are, I think we're going to pick up a lot of games in January, and that's going to be hopefully exciting to see. So even though every other game these days seems like we're doing really bad, I think the level of play that we're at, it's probably not a playoff team, but I think we can go on a run, maybe get like a 10-11 seed, maybe get into the play-in. So just a little touch of optimism and something to look forward to, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever. I mean, granted, I don't pay attention to other teams, schedules like that closely. But to be this far into the NBA season, and like you said, to go that far into December, like, and not be playing Eastern Conference teams, that's insane.
It's
How
crazy.
how did that? How did the schedule makers like make that happen? Like, it's
So,
crazy.
so the interesting thing is, someone else commented on this. I forgot who I would give credit, but it was because of the NBA Cup, where they need to schedule these Western Conference games earlier on, so there's less opportunity for the Eastern
Yes, that
Conference
makes
games.
sense.
So that's a big factor. But even then, like, compare us to the rest of the West. I
Yeah,
think there was I forgot who it was, but someone had played like 7 or 9 games against the East already. Like,
and,
what? It's crazy. I
and we're
think it was
sitting at
Memphis,
one.
actually. Yeah, and we're sitting at 1 or
Yeah,
2 after tomorrow.
just crazy, just crazy. But yeah, I mean, you have a good
Mhm.
point. I think, in my opinion, getting our hopes up that playing all these Eastern Conference teams later in the season could potentially bring us up to the ninth or 10th seed is like, that's best case scenario in my opinion. Like, that is us overachieving, and the way we're playing right now, like, and granted, we're not playing terrible, but we're so hot and cold. Like, we're
Mhm.
competitive one game, and then we're really not competitive the next game, and then it's kind of just flowing in between those. And it's like, as the season goes on, players get more tired. You're relying on more, conditioning and more depth. We very well could be hurting just as much as we are right now, even though we're playing the Eastern teams more. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's definitely a factor.
I just, something's got to change. Something has to change with our roster construction, and something has to change with our offensive game plan. I said it when I was ranting a little bit. I don't even see plays drawn up for Sharp. It's all just kind of, I don't even see plays drawn
Honestly,
up for anybody, if I'm being honest.
yeah,
So
yeah. Let's be honest.
it's
Honestly,
just,
Sharp. I think Sharp needs to be a little bit more aggressive sometimes.
I agree.
He is one of those few people that can create their own shot, and he doesn't always try to. I think he should try to be a little bit more aggressive.
It's hard being optimistic right now. I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat things. I don't want to try to ignore things. So we're gonna say how we feel and what we're seeing and what a lot of people are seeing. So I don't have anything else to say. Fawad, do you have anything else tonight?
No, I think I'm good. Just one comment about probably our next episode. We're coming up on the end of November, so we're gonna be putting out a summary for
Yes.
the rating surveys that we're doing. So we'll talk about that a little bit on the next episode, and we'll also post them on, all our socials. So keep an eye out for that.
And we're on the quest for 100 episodes. We're at 93 right now. We are almost there. I mean, it is absolutely wild to think we are almost to 100 episodes. Like, that's crazy to think. Um, so all of you that have been here from day one or yesterday, like, we appreciate you guys being here. We appreciate you guys listening. And as always, Rip City, baby.